Hey everybody, it's Derek here. So you might remember, or some people who may have been on the channel might remember last year I did start a kind of shit. Was it fucking year before that? Maybe 2019. Anyway, I did a kind of weekly news sort of roundup thing, where I would live stream myself looking at various industry news, gaming news that came out that week, and I'd have a chat about it. Um, so I'm trying to get back into it. I do find live streaming a bit anxiety inducing, so I'm sort of working my way up to it. So this particular video is not being streamed live, but I am using the kind of live setup stuff. Um, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, we'll kick it off, I suppose. So announced this week was the Mass Effect trilogy remaster, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So it's bringing Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 and all of their DLC together in one place for PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, what have you. Except there's some things missing, and I just wanted to bring these up because they highlight a problem in gaming in general. So this story from Rock Paper Shotgun, um, story by Alice O'Connor. This is an issue in that Pinnacle Station, which was a kind of multiplayer arena thing. I think it was for Mass Effect 2, maybe it was Mass Effect 3. Jesus, it was Mass Effect 1. Okay. Interesting. Okay, anyway. This is just to highlight that the reason they can't get Pinnacle Station back is because its source code is corrupted. So they went through their different code bases to get it. They went after the original developers of Pinnacle Station, which was not BioWare, it was outsourced to somebody else. And they sent over what source code they had, except all of it had been corrupted. So it's just a case that they cannot resurrect it, so it's just not going to be in the remaster. But I'm just bringing this up to point out that there's a lot of games that have this issue. That if they wanted to go back and remaster something from the PS1 or even earlier, like N64 or fucking Super Nintendo or something like that, Famicom, Spectrum, any of those kind of games, they're gone. The source code for them is gone for the most part because they were usually churned out as just a moneymaker for whatever end of tax year kind of thing, or pushed out as a kind of children's toy or something like that. It wasn't treated as an artistic piece, in which case it doesn't have the same level of preservation that they would have, like books would have. Once you've published a book, even if it's a shit book, it still tends to be preserved in like central repositories for books. It's the same for films. They have a preservation thing for that. They don't have one for games, or at least they don't have like an official one. There is a group that is doing game preservation, but they're getting tied up in things like copyright and servers being down and stuff like that. Like if you have an MMO game that you want to preserve for years to come so other people can play it, the server needs to stay there. And that costs money, obviously. So the servers tend to go down over time. If the multiplayer game itself wasn't particularly popular, the servers will disappear and that game is gone forever, basically. Even if you have the client for it, if the server isn't there anymore, there's no preserving it. And then you have things like corrupted code, source code not being kept, or being straight up deleted and stuff like that. So it's not great, but this is just a highlight for something even as big as Mass Effect. Even they have this problem. Um, and it really just goes back to the idea that games are not worth preserving. Now that is changing because the makeup of people who make these decisions is changing, and they are more interested in playing games and seeing the worth in preserving them. Hopefully, I hope that is changing. The other story with the Mass Effect remaster, which is kind of more funny than anything else, um, there are some gratuitous butt shots, I guess, in Mass Effect 2 and 3, where the camera is angled in such a way that Miranda's arse is prominent in the frame, and it is absolutely on purpose. I wonder, do they have the picture in the article? There, that shot, basically. Anyway, that's gone apparently in the remasters, there's a couple of other shots in Mass Effect 3 that are something similar like that. I just think it's funny that it was brought up, and of course gamers are losing their shit about it. But ma Miranda asked. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. But the thing is, remasters are subject to change for whatever reason. This could be prudish, or it could just been the backlash, or it could just been like, how did this get passed without people going, why are we focusing on Miranda's ass? But anyway, I just thought it was funny to bring up. So some small game updates. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake has been delayed indefinitely is a bit misleading, even though it's technically correct, the best kind of correct. Um, the reason it's indefinitely is because they just haven't given a date for when it comes out. So originally it was going to come out like end of last year, I think, and then they pushed it back again to March this year, and now this latest update from the dev team is that there is no date. It's just being worked on based on your feedback from things that you've seen and whatever. Now, it's never really great. Oh, it was late for January. I thought it was March. It's never really great to hear like games being delayed, but at the same time, a delayed game can eventually be good, but a rushed game is almost always bad. Shigeru Miyamoto. But if you had seen the trailer or any of the kind of assets they had pushed out to kind of hype up the remake, I'm kind of happy this got pushed back. It looked rough. It looked really, really rough, and I really like the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. So I'm hoping that eventually, when it does eventually come out, if it eventually comes out, it'll turn out really good, because the Prince of Persia HD remaster of Sands of Time is not great. There's some pretty bad audio issues on it, which is what's stopping me from putting it on the channel. Getting the original running is not really happening. I don't have a PS2 with a HDMI output, so anyway. And then kind of good news and somewhat highlighting some strangeness in the games industry is The Medium came out last week, I think, from Bloober team. Bloober, rather than Blooper, has recouped its dev costs, which is really good. The Medium, if you've played it, is a kind of meditative horror thriller kind of thing, with the kind of duality system going on where you control the one character in two different environments at the same time. It's a really interesting setup, but that it's managed to make back its dev costs based on it being, one, it's exclusive to Xbox, I think also on PC, but then also it was like it's free with Game Pass, so that's even less back to them, but they're still managing to make back their dev costs. Now, some of that is because Xbox bought them out, but you do hear about like ridiculous budgets for games, and that them having to do the $60, €60, £60, what's a fucking, what is the word I'm trying to say? What's a currency conversion? Although those numbers are all the same, sure, whatever. But having to do that, and then tacking on the season pass, and then tacking on the DLC, and it goes, bloats up to like 100 or 120 microtransactions and stuff like that. It's all to kind of tackle a big budget for games, except Bloober Team just made back their money. Caveats being that Xbox, whatever. It still highlights that it can be done if you're arsed. Some hardware news. PS5 kind of launch issues. It's mostly, if you wanted to listen to the news, it would be mostly like the scalpers getting in ahead of people not being able to buy it. But a lot of the PS5 stuff is just straight up, there aren't enough semiconductors for them to make PS5s. They need the raw components to build them in the first place. That is a bottleneck for them. But also, this is a story that even when it goes on stock, like there's chaos at the shops. Like you already have the online problems of scalpers with their bots getting in like way ahead of people who just want to play the console and aren't trying to sell it on for ridiculous markup. But they cancelled the sale due to people being insane, which is Eurogamer, Vicky Blake. So like they cancelled here. They cancelled the sale due to people being insane, pushed so hard, even the cash registers and staff went backwards. I've never seen that kind of insanity in Japan, which is like they're very laid back. I've been there myself. Not laid back exactly, but like withholding, very polite. To have them behave this way suggests one, the demand for PS5s, but also the kind of crazy hype they've put behind the PS5 in marketing, and then not being able to keep production up at that level is causing pretty bad problems. Very much first world problems, but still problems. Elsewhere in hardware, Nintendo Switch surpasses the 3DS lifetime sales. Insane, okay? Because the 3DS and the Wii combined would have been the most sold, I suppose, consoles like ever. And then PS2, I think, is a little bit behind them. But the fact that the Switch has just like surpassed it is insane. And it's almost entirely fucking Animal Crossing, because pandemic time and everyone went, I want to feel good, but the pandemic is shit. So what am I gonna do? Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing's all over Twitter and people seem to like it, so I'm gonna get it. And it's like 31 fucking million after 9 months is ridiculous. So that's pushing like new people going, I want to play Animal Crossing. I don't own a Switch. I'm gonna buy a Switch so I can play Animal Crossing. And then like Mario Kart comes up behind them, because Mario Kart's perennial, always fun times. And then surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, you got Ring Fit coming in there too. I guess people can't get out to the gym and they just bought their Switch and they're seeing this fitness thing that comes up. Maybe that's the thing. But it's nuts that the Switch has already surpassed 3DS. That's insane. And then we've got my favorite part of these news roundups is the industry fucking bullshit that goes on behind the scenes. So we'll start off small. Silent Hill is coming into another crossover kind of thing. So Konami continuing to churn out the name Silent Hill and doing nothing with it. They're just giving it to different developers. You've got, this time it's coming to Monsters and Mortals. No idea what that game is. I've no interest in looking it up. But Silent Hill is going to appear on it. I think Dead by Daylight has a Silent Hill crossover. There's a couple of other titles that have the same thing, which is just fucking make a Silent Hill game, or like give it to somebody else already. I have seen some Twitter news on the composer suggesting that maybe he's working on Silent Hill, but then that was quickly retracted, and then there has been rumors that there is a new Silent Hill in production, or that Kojima was working on one. Oh, I mean, he was working on one with PT, but it's possible he has since begun a new project with it, but who knows. Either way, this shit with it just churning out the Silent Hill IP without actually doing anything properly with it. EU to rule on Microsoft's 7.5 billion acquisition of ZeniMax. So this is coming from last year's news, where Microsoft threw some money around, bought a whole bunch of developers, but the biggest one was that they bought ZeniMax, which is the parent company of Bethesda. So they bought Bethesda, which is Elder Scrolls, Fallout, those guys, id, Doom, Prey, lots of really good games that are potentially exclusive to Microsoft, which is, I mean, I have a PC, but I'm mostly use it for, I don't even know why I have such a high power PC. I barely really use it for gaming anyway. But this is potentially, the EU could say no to the acquisition. Now, because I play primarily on PlayStation, I hope they do say no. But I mean, these kind of things tend to be a rubber stamp. But yeah, they could potentially get in the way. But I doubt it. And then 7.5 billion, like Disney bought Star Wars for 4 billion, like nearly double to get Doom, Elder Scrolls, Fallout. Is it worth it? Maybe. Guess we'll see. As long as it's not fucking Fallout 76 again. Sega announces new show, Sonic Prime. This is coming from Destructoid. Right after departure of the character's main voice actor. pretty bad timing here. So earlier in the week, or it might have been last week, Roger Craig Smith, the voice of Sonic for the last 15 years at least, in games at least, announced that he's no longer voicing Sonic the Hedgehog. I believe Tails' voice actor is also not returning. And it wasn't particularly clear if he had resigned from the position or was let go or just his contract was not renewed or whatever it is. But then it came about that there's a new Netflix show called Sonic Prime coming out that will not have Roger Craig Smith and potentially Tails' voice actor. That still needs to be confirmed. Not great timing. Just kind of highlights how the voice actors are kind of treated in a lot of these things. They do kind of become synonymous with the character, and when you hear somebody else's voice, it feels like it's not that character anymore. Like, I think one of the bigger ones was probably David Hayter being replaced with Kiefer Sutherland grunting. Maybe he had 6 lines in the whole of Metal Gear Solid 5. It's like, what was the point in that? But you can definitely tell, and you definitely feel different about the character when the voice changes. You might come around to it initially, or sorry, not initially, eventually, but I think in the immediate aftermath, it's a bit shitty to have the announcement that he's not voicing and then have a new animated show where he should probably have been the voice actor. There is the idea that Ben Schwartz, who does Sonic's voice in the film, should also probably have been Roger Craig Smith. But there you go. That's the industry for you. Google Stadia shuts down internal studios. I'm shocked, totally. So here's the news that Google bought up, or didn't buy up, but they created 2 internal studios to make games exclusively for Stadia, and to do that, they brought in about like it's in the story that it's 150 developers, and these weren't like straight out of college developers. These were like veteran video game developers. Jade Raymond as well, who went from Assassin's Creed to EA to do something with Star Wars, but then didn't do anything, and then went to Stadia to apparently also not do anything. So what's happened here is the studios have been closed. The 150 developers have essentially lost their job. Google has stated, or Google Stadia has stated, anyway, have stated that they will attempt to get them jobs somewhere else in Google, but I would suggest, what game developer wants a job in a company that doesn't make games? You know, like, why would I want that? It's just they just wasted 2 years of their lives. Like, that's a 2-year hole in their CV now that they have to explain. And how, coming from someone who also had to explain a hole in their CV, that's a hard one to explain. Gearbox bought by owners of THQ Nordic. This is somewhat burying the idea, but I suppose it comes up in the first line. The Embracer Group, which is huge, now own like a shit ton of publishers and developers, and now Gearbox on top of it. So that's like a big conglomerate. Paid $363 million, £262 million. This is Rock Paper Shotgun again, so it's a British outlet, to buy Gearbox. And then a bunch of other stuff in shares and stuff like that. It's just to highlight that, like, even like Borderlands is a pretty huge IP, but if you have enough money, you can come around and people will roll over and say, yeah, of course you can have it, and then do whatever they want with it. 2K Games are the original publishers of Borderlands, and vast majority of Gearbox's games, so that they have given that up is interesting, because I think Borderlands' IP belongs to Gearbox rather than 2K, so I guess they are getting the Borderlands IP with it, which they are attempting to make like films and animes and shit out of that as well, so I guess there is some latitude for money there, but still, like, having one group, the the Embracer group just sounds terrible. Change your name. But yeah, the thing is that name you don't hear too often. You usually hear THQ Nordic have gone into partnership with whoever, or Deep Silver have gone into partnership with whatever. But if you follow the chain up, you hit usually one group at the very top of it. Okay, years later, Warner Bros. Games, assholes, has successfully patented the Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system. If you're not familiar, the Nemesis system was this kind of thing where the game would generate NPCs with specific like stats, but also like personality quirks and things like that, and they would follow you in the game. So I could set that NPC on fire, and then he would come back later scarred, and maybe he has a fear of fire now. Or maybe he killed me and he has better armor now. He's gone up with the ranks because he killed the main character of the game, or something like that. It's a really nice kind of organic way of developing a nemesis in the game, like an NPC that just grows with you over time. And they had a couple of number of things. The reason I'm putting this out is that patenting software is no, stop doing that. So much software relies on software that came before it, that came before that, that came before that. Patenting it just chops that branch off. Can't use it anymore. Only these people can use it. It's not the way you do software. I am very much against software patenting in general, and I just don't think they should ever be granted. But that is a quirk, I suppose, of mine, but I just wanted to highlight it because Warner Bros. Have tried numerous times to try to do this, and patenting software is already difficult enough because of how many things interlock with each other and what things you can say are patented or not patented, because open source software and licensed software can come into it, AI branches and that kind of thing that would be from third parties. They would be using them to develop the Nemesis system, so it's trying to isolate it in such a way that it's not touching other potentially patented or copyrighted software. Again, if they weren't patented in the first place, it wouldn't be an issue, but there you go. But they have managed to successfully do it now, so you're not going to see the Nemesis system anywhere else. Good job. And then last thing, we can't do an industry bullshit without Activision in it. So Activision sued for copying a Call of Duty Modern Warfare character model. This is from the 6th Axis. So basically, to give you the gist of it, there was a where's his name? Here he is. Clayton Haugen. I don't know. Clayton? No, Clayton Haugen. I don't know. Anyway, he made a film that had this character in it, Cade Janus, or rather, he made a series of photo shoots to hype, or I guess get funding for making this film. So he put out these different photo shots to say this is what the character would look like, and this is the kind of game structure and idea. And then you can see in these shots, the characters look pretty similar, right? Okay, it gets worse because what actually really happened, you can't just say, oh, they look really similar, but I mean, completely, completely external, that we just happened to come across making the same character at the same time together. Weird, huh? No. Activision hired the actress, then they hired the makeup artist to make her up exactly as she was in the Cade Janus pictures, and then had both of them sign an NDA to say that that's not what they did. So Activision being Activision, so they are absolutely, definitely copying the look of this character. Now, how much of that you can actually sue somebody for doing, I don't know, because the character themselves are not an established IP, because the film never got made. So I don't know where they'll come down at that. And then the last story of the week, and probably the funniest, is Resident Evil's tall vampire lady is 9'6". So if you're not familiar, I have played the Resident Evil Maiden demo. I think there's a scrolling or shifting thing underneath my face, or to the side of my face. forget where I put it. But there is a character in that game who potentially is a vampire. Not sure, probably. Who's quite tall. She's a tall lady. And the Resident Evil developers put out a tweet. Maybe the tweet's in the article. No, they just have the summation here. So they put out, or maybe I can highlight it. Fuck it. Anyway, they put out a tweet to say, "Oh, we were so happy that Lady Dimitrescu has been so well received by the gaming audience. Various memes and Rule 34 notwithstanding." And they put out, here's some information about her. She's like 9'6" with her hat and heels, and the internet went a bit nuts with that information. It was just really funny. 2.9 meters tall. That's quite tall. Anyway, yeah, that's my first attempt, I suppose, at doing this weekly news thing. I will try again. Here's the thing I was talking about. I couldn't tell where it is because the camera is mirrored or whatever. Anyway, what you thought? This is very ad hoc, and I just kind of thought about doing it again, just to see how it would handle and how, if OBS had changed or anything like that. This is being recorded in OBS, not being streamed, because I'm just not up to doing live streams just yet. Yeah, as I said at the start, they make me a bit anxious, but I would like to get back into them. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought about this week's news or whatever. The links to the different articles that I showed will be in the description under the video. Don't know what the fuck I'm going to do for live streams and that. I guess I'll put them... I guess I'll just have to direct them to the YouTube video. I don't know. Still not sure if I will live stream on Twitch or on YouTube. I don't know. There is a Twitch channel, as you can see, there. How do I... Yeah, this way. There. There's the Twitch. There's the Twitch address there, but it's old. I haven't looked at it in quite some time. So I will potentially look at doing that. I don't know. Yeah, anyway. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys next time.